Okay, so that's a really good question. The question was, what resolution is the file? So just in case, it's good to know that 72 ppi, or pixels per inch, is the resolution for web pages. On different kinds of devices, such as HD content, you do have the uh, possibility of making work higher detail. But if you go to file, if you do want to go and in Illustrator see what this file is 300, but if you make it in Photoshop, it's 72 if you open this up. So when you go to File New and you choose these different choices, it's actually setting a preset for you. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, so now I'm going to start making the artwork the size I need it to be. There are two ways that you could approach that. In Photoshop, you could go in and make the artwork that size by cutting it. Another way that you could do it is import the artwork into Illustrator and size it in Illustrator and use a clipping mask to hold it inside of a specific area, such as if you wanted artwork to be inside of a circle. You can either make it that shape in Photoshop and lay it in as a background, or you can use what's known as a clipping mask, and I'll show you both ways. So I'm going to need to go into Photoshop, so I'll just pause this for a moment. All right, so I'm going to create a document of a custom size 19 by 20 at 1875 using web resolution of 72 for my slider. And now I will start with the first things first, and that even though I've given this a name, it's not really saved. When you give a file a name in Illustrator, in Photoshop, in that dialog box, the new dialog box, that doesn't preclude that it is saved. It's just a name. That's a weird thing. So when you name it at the beginning, you are not saving it. Just thought you'd like to know. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and open something and just put some artwork in there. This doesn't have to be fine art. This is really just about showing you how to get some artwork in there. So I'll just grab one of these things here. Okay. So I'm opening this file separately. It's very helpful if your artwork that you are working with is the right size, but it's not always going to be. In general, it's a good idea to not scale artwork larger than it already is, but sometimes you can't avoid it. If you are going to scale artwork larger than it already is, there are some things you should keep in mind to get a better resolution or a more clear resize. So in general, you do not want to size artwork up in Photoshop. You want to size it down. You want to not try and create new data. But when you size something up, that's precisely what happens. So I've just gone ahead and made a selection around the area I want to keep in this artwork, and I'm going to go to my image menu and choose crop. That's one way to crop. And I'll take a selection of this artwork. So I'll deselect and I'll just grab a portion of it and see what happens. There's the portion that I want. And copy that, Command C. And then I'll go over to the slider file, Command V, and yes, click OK. And I can see that my original artwork is too small for my slider to have the best detail. If I go Command T in Photoshop, I could scale it. And some people might argue that it's fine this way and that people can't tell the difference. You might not want to stretch your artwork. Things you want to keep in mind. Okay. But I can see a lot of things by that selection. So I'll go back to my full image and I'll get a much bigger piece, and now I'll have more freedom. So I'll copy this bigger piece, go back to the slider, Command V, click OK, and well, I have the height but I don't have the width. So the question is, I'm going to do a new file. This is kind of a funny little thing I'm going to do here. Question is it's up to you, but when you resize something, in general, I have been told that you should always resize it in even increments. So I just pasted the chunk that I know will be at least too big, and I want to resize it. And I want to resize it over here at image size. And instead of just scaling it, if I set this to percent, and I do this mathematically, instead of 100, I put this on 200, and make sure I'm resampling this. I am adding data. I am resampling, making up pixels. And here I want to see that these options are the best options. So preserve details in light, enlargement, smoother. So this is probably sharper. This may be sharper than the other choice. And, you know, you are going to want to experiment. Most of the time, I will probably use this. Preserve details. Okay. And click OK. So now it's resizing this image twice as large. And then instead of just scaling it with Command T the first time through, Command 0 will fit in window. Now I would, again, select all and copy, and then go to the slider page, the actual slider page. And I'm going to go to Layers and throw away these 2 layers and paste the new one. And then Command T, Command minus, and scale this. So that is 2 schools of thought. I usually do whatever looks best. It's not a hard and fast rule, but what I just showed you is really important for photography and less important for line art. Okay, so now that's layer 1 or tree art. I'm going to add a new layer, and here I'll do lights. So each layer that you have in Photoshop will be something that you may eventually want to drop into your Illustrator page. I'll just put one more in here. Keep it. So I'll select all, copy, close this file, paste, hit return, Command T, and scale it. The return key, press the letter V for move. Move this guy down. Fabulous. All right, so now for every single item of the slider, I will export it out as a separate file. So I'll do this one. I'll save this file. And file export. I happen to be a PNG fan, portable network graphics, as opposed to JPEG. PNGs will load slower, but the quality is so much better. So it's a trade-off. If I go to this wonderful dialog box in Photoshop called Export Save for Web Legacy, it opens up the controller that lets you compare and contrast different compression settings. So these are the main compression settings for compressing original artwork. Medium, high, low. GIF is for flat color artwork. So since this is photography, we'll want JPEG or PNG. And if I set this to medium here, you can see that the size for JPEG medium is at the slowest modem in the world, 256 kbps. That's like from 1990. We want like a real modern modem here. So 333 seconds. I don't believe that's correct. Let's set this up here. Cable DSL, that's better. 13 seconds. So You know, that's kind of a long download for a picture, 13 seconds. You see what I'm saying? And if I set this to PNG 8, you can see it loses some quality. Still says it's 13 seconds. Kind of hard to believe. Sometimes I just really wonder about you, Photoshop. Yeah, that's not real at all because it keeps resetting that to. All right, so now it's saying 665 seconds. I don't know.
More like a 2
That's totally fine. Okay, so it says 6 seconds. So in any case, I'm going to save it, and I'll give it a specific name, such as Boy on Bart, PNG, and it's on the desktop. And I'll switch back to Illustrator. And File Place. From the desktop, Boy on Bart, Place. And if everything's right with the world, I should be able to click and drag this and it should fit precisely in that space. Okay, I can still size it a little bit, but essentially you get the idea. Okay, when you resize this, essentially what is going to end up being this space is a programmed unit of measure. Right, so I'm going to continue with the Photoshop part now that I've talked about starting to fill in the guides in the next movie.